Hey guys, it's Nichole Eaton with the Rock Your Soul book and podcast, where we talk about how to hack your mindset, grow your intuition, and live your best life. It's been another wild week, and I know for me personally, it has been a little bit of an up and down week. So as much as I love talking about all things shiny and glittery and rainbow and sunshine and manifesting and good gratitude, I want to talk a little bit about the grief and the crushing. I had this experience over the past week where I had a lot of client sessions that were heart-wrenching. People going through really challenging times. They're hurting really badly. They're losing people they love. They're losing jobs they love. They're in all of these confusing spaces where they're unsure of what their future holds or their business holds or their relationships hold. And I think it all came to a little bit of a peak for me this past Sunday when I was looking. I was watching a church sermon, and across the bottom were all these prayer requests. So I couldn't figure out what they were for the first 5 minutes, so I missed a couple, but basically it would say a person's name followed by what they were up against, so unemployment or financial worries, or somebody was in the hospital that they loved. And so I caught myself trying to push out as much positive energy, as much praying, as much joy, as much whatever I could, good intentions for these people as I could. So I'm like rapid fire praying, and I just lose it. And I just feel this weight of the world is hurting so badly right now, and there's nothing I can do about it. I cannot pray fast enough to make this pandemic go away. And it was the first time throughout all of this that I felt more helpless than I felt in control and powerful and in my kind of divine energy. And, you know, I was thinking there's two choices, right? When we're in this state of being crushed, or we're going through a hard time, or we're in a situational chaos, it feels so heavy and so crushing. And we can think of it in two separate ways. Rock Your Soul, in the book, I talk about our thoughts leading to our emotions. And you can look at all of this craziness of going on in the world as having either no purpose at all, that we're all just struggling and dying and grieving and hurting for no damn reason. And you can drift into the associated emotion of that when you think about just everything is going wrong and it doesn't feel good, that then you don't feel good for that. Or you have a choice of faith, which is to decide that even though you can't see it, there has to be a purpose. Even though it doesn't make sense to you right now, there has to be a purpose. There has to be a reason all of this. Even though we can't see a way out necessarily, we don't have to see how it's going to happen, but we have to believe that it can, that it will, that this is temporary, that this is, important. And I talk a lot with my clients about how faith is not a feeling. It is a cognitive process. It is a cognitive process that leads to a feeling. Because I believe in, Carolyn Miss calls it holy truth. And she talks about what your soul knows that even your logical brain doesn't, right? Your soul knows that things will be okay. Your soul and your intuition know that you'll find your way out of this, that things will get better, that things will improve. Your logic is looking around at all of the stats and statistics and facts and doom and gloom news reports and saying, but how? And that's the part that faith requires, is for you to let go of the how. Sometimes miracles just happen. Sometimes you wake up with this, you go to bed with this heaviness and you wake up feeling lighter. Sometimes life just gets better. Sometimes you go from being heartbroken to meeting your dream person. Sometimes you go from unemployed to employed. Sometimes you go from totally poor to super wealthy. Sometimes things just change, and you're not designing the how process right now. You don't get to decide how that has to look or how that has to go, because you're not going to be able to see it. But I think that one thing I will say is that there is a very big difference between being planted and being buried. And right now, I keep saying we're in the dark. We're in the dark because we don't see a way out. We're in the dark because we don't see a purpose. We're in the dark because, there is all of this stuff going on that we can't control. But when you're planted, it means there's growth that's happening within you. It means that there's unraveling that has to be done for you to grow the proper roots to burst out back into the sun, back into the daylight. When you're buried, you don't get the same feeling. You don't get the idea of growth or the feeling of growth. You're still in the same dark space. You're still in the same unraveling phase, but you're not holding the hope that there's something on the other side, that there's daylight, that there's growth, that there's sprouts and fruit to be bared. And if we never plant the seed at all, then it just sits still with potential. All the potential is packed inside and it never has a chance to come out. And so I want to talk briefly about the crushing of things that happen to us in our life that just feel heavy, that feel weighted, because I think the crushing is what creates clarity. The crushing is what creates, actually, there's this really, really great book by T.D. Jakes, and in it he talks a lot about the process of making wine, which I can totally relate to, because, I have no experience in making wine. That was a really poor example of my wording, but I do like drinking it, so I will attest to that. But he, in this book, says the crushing of the grape not only expresses the juice from the flesh, but it also separates the unusable parts of the grape from the juice. Part of what happens when things go wrong in our life is it takes the parts of us that we need for our future and pulls it out. And it takes the parts of us that have stopped ourselves from getting to that future, and it throws them away. It gets rid of them. So a lot of what people are feeling right now is this stripping process. And a lot of what the universe is asking of us right now is to go back in and to look at what's important. You guys, we have been so distracted by external stimuli. We have been so busy, and we fill our calendars with so much to do. I mean, I've felt really grateful to not be rushing from one thing to the next in a lot of ways. I miss it, don't get me wrong, I miss it, but I also feel centered and calm, and I have more time to come within. And I think that's what the universe is asking us. Like, what have you been paying attention to that you shouldn't be paying attention to? What things should you be paying attention to, or would you prefer to be paying attention to? Our souls need us to tap back into our purpose, and we can't do that if we're too busy trying to impress people with false versions of ourselves, or if we're too busy trying to pour our energy and time into everything but ourselves and our families. It's pretty much locking us back into home so that we find the home within ourselves, that we find our way back to connecting with the universe. So we find our way back into our passions of writing or creating or dreaming or, growing businesses, or those things that you forgot about. It's asking you to come back within, because crushing creates clarity. And I think the really challenging thing I've had just a lot of clients say to me is, I felt like life was just starting to get better. I felt like I was just starting to nail it. I felt really good about where 2020 was going. And I don't understand why this is happening. Well, what I'll remind you is that if we think about that process of growing a vine, right? If we're thinking about wine, if we can think about wine during this quarantine, that would be fantastic. But if we're thinking about wine, we have to first plant a seed. I am not a wine grower, a vintner, whatever they're called. I am not one of those, so bear with me if I'm wrong about this process, but in my head, this is how it goes, so bear with me. So we have the seed. If we don't plant the seed holds its potential, but never grows into anything, right? So we plant the seed, we have to give it the right conditions, meaning everything externally also has to be good. So we have to create some conditions that work. Whether we have to create them, and I keep thinking about this, like for people who are at home with kids and who now have a million other responsibilities on top of working from home while their children are staring at them and breathing down their necks, or whatever the case might be, we have to begin to create time. So whether that's a strict bedtime, or whether that's taking 5 minutes and locking yourself in the bathroom, I'm not judging anything. Whether that's even just asking your kids to go watch a movie so you can have peace. whatever your best and good enough is today, that's good enough today. We're all working through this together, because when the seed is planted, it needs supporting external environment to help it grow. It has to. So think about your environment. Is it messy? Do you need to organize? Can you have your kids help? Can you enlist your partner to watch? What can you do right now to create some external conditions? So we plant the seed and it starts to unravel, and this might feel messy, because what this is doing is it's separating, it's clearing, it's giving you clarity, it's allowing some of the old stuff to release, whether that's you writing out some stuff that's been going on in your head and heart that you have been distracting yourself long enough that you haven't paid any attention to it, or whether it's an old trauma that's resurfacing of feeling abandoned or alone, because that's a trigger for a lot of people right now. Whatever is coming up for you, attend to it, because this is your unraveling. This is the part where you get clear about what's important, what wasn't working, how have you been doing things, how have you been thinking about things, is it how you want to be thinking about things, is it how you want to be doing things? This is the time to get clear and asking yourself those questions. Who the hell do you want to be? What is important to you? What have you let being important to you that really isn't and really shouldn't be? So the seed finally bursts through, and it finally gets a little light, and it feels lighter, and it's growing, and you can feel it. So you might get into a good flow if you can create some habits. So maybe that's 10 minutes of meditation. Maybe that's a workout program. Maybe that's going for a walk as a family. Maybe that's, while you're working, listening to a podcast that fuels your mind and your heart and your growth and your personal growth. Or maybe you wanted to learn how to write better, or maybe you wanted to learn how to create a podcast, or whatever that is. Find a way to grow. Find something that's important to you. Create. We've been big into sidewalk chalk lately. That's been our thing. So we finally burst, and then the tree grows fruit, right? This vine, this tree, this plant that we've planted, the seed that was potential is now fruit. It is starting to bear things. So we're talking about, okay, so how come things were so good before? That's your fruit. Now what has to happen for us to have wine? The fruit needs to get crushed. The fruit needs to get crushed, and it needs to leave behind the old, unusable parts of the grape so that we can have the juice from it. And the longer that juice has to prune and age, the more valuable it is. Aged wine is far superior to non-aged wine. You need time. And in a world where we feel rushed and we feel behind all the time, this is what the universe is gifting us in some ways during our crushing period, is time. It is giving you time. And you might not feel like you have time, but I would look at what you're doing throughout your day and see where you can start to separate some stuff for yourself. See where you can start to, maybe this is a good time for you to start to ask for help. Maybe this is a good time for you to set boundaries. Maybe this is a good time for you to sit down and write down, what do I need? What do I want my relationship with my kids to look like? I found myself last week being a little irritable with my children. And that is something I've worked really, really hard on over the years to not be. I'm pretty patient. I'm really loving. I meet them with love. But last week I was like, I cannot be a teacher and a cook and run two businesses at the same time. Like, I just can't. I'm tapped out, I'm burnt out. And what I really was asking was, how am I going to refill my tank so that I can show up? What do I need to do? So I took a couple nights and I did nothing. I didn't talk to anybody. Like, I put the kids to bed at 8 and I took a bubble bath, and I put the kids to bed at 8 the next night, and I did some writing, and I put it is about setting some boundaries for yourself of saying, I need this time for me. And whatever that looks like, maybe, again, if you're a parent with young kids at home, maybe your peace time is television. And, this is not a time to judge you or to judge anybody else. This is a time for you to find ways to refill yourself so you can show up and meet this chaos. And the other thing I will say is that hope does require some level of vision. If you're not a deep faith person, if you don't have the deep faith to say, well, the universe has got it or God's got it, and sometimes I am and sometimes I'm not. And sometimes I just can't even see a way out. Sometimes I feel so buried instead of planted that I just feel like The universe must have gave up on me. And I don't know if anybody else has ever felt that way, but it's just like, did you forget I'm here? Did you forget that I need this too, or I need help too, or I need some magic or some light in my life? But what I'll say is that those are the best times to say, today and only for today, I'm going to try my best. And today and only for today, I'm going to try to incorporate things into my day, like good music or new music, or phone calls or FaceTimes with people I love, or a new book or a TV show that I can binge, or I'm going to incorporate things into my life today only that feel good to me or that feel a little bit better. I'm going to incorporate 10 minutes of meditation or listening to some good binaural beats. It's really about taking today one day at a time, because part of what's happening right now is the fruit that we've grown, we're crushing it. We're crushing it to make wine. We're crushing it because we've got some other things that are better to offer, and we've got parts of ourselves that we really need to start separating. And we've got parts of ourselves that have some beautiful qualities, and we maybe even have parts of ourselves that we need to revive. Maybe there's that creative passion in there that you haven't touched in a while, or maybe there's that musical genius in you that you haven't played in a while, or maybe there's those things that you used to love that made you feel the most like you that you abandoned. Like, what parts of you have you let go? Those silly, fun, entertaining parts, the parts of you that like to perform, the parts of you that like to read and study and learn new things. What parts of you have you left behind that are part of who you're meant to be? This is what I'm talking about when I say that the crushing is for clarity. Crushing is for you to say, to come back in instead of getting distracted by all this external stimuli, and say, what is it that I want? Who am I? Who do I want to be? What makes me feel most like myself? And then we're going to take it one day at a time. And we're going to forgive ourselves, because quarantine, pandemics, craziness, this is a time where we might have moments where we fall apart. And we forgive ourselves for it. We might have moments where we yell at our kids, and we forgive ourselves for it. We might have moments where we yell at our spouse or our partner, or we reject them, or we have ways of interacting with people that aren't our norm, and we forgive ourselves. Because the quicker you forgive yourself, the quicker you release that emotion, the quicker you can say, I'm sorry that I did that, and I'm sorry for myself that I feel this way. What do I need to refill so that I don't feel this way tomorrow? Do I need an Epsom salt bath tonight? Do I need to read for a bit? Do I need to listen to a good hypnosis before bed? Do I need to call a friend and vent? Do I need a gratitude practice? Do I need to talk to Nichole and book a session with Nichole? Whatever it is that you need, it's a really good time to just check in. This is what the universe is asking us to do. It's asking us to check in with ourselves. It's asking us to become better. It's asking us to re-tap into our purpose instead of trying to impress people, instead of trying to do what other people wanted for us. It's quieting our brains, and it's quieting the chaos that has been surrounding us so that we can go in and become who we were supposed to be the first time around. And whatever that looks like for you, whatever today brings. Like I said, crushing is not fun. Some days you feel suffocated like you're buried, but remember you're planted. Remember this is going to grow. Remember that sometimes even when things get good, they still crush again. But they crush again to make you better for the next phase. It's this mountain and valley kind of thing. Sometimes you're on the top so you can see the view. Record it in your memory so that you know that you were there once. You know that you can get back there. You know that you can feel that way again. And the mountaintop is most important for the valley. The mountaintop is crucial to know that when you're in the valley, that you've climbed that before. You've done this before. This is not the worst thing. This is something that you're going through and something that you'll make it out of, but it's temporary. And again, faith is a choice. And either way you choose, if you choose to have faith or to not have faith, you're still going to have an emotion that follows it. So choose what you can handle. Is it worth sitting in despair? Is it worth allowing that to eat all of the things that give you hope?
Let's hear a quick word from our sponsor. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
You have to begin to release how this is going to resolve itself. You have to release how you're going to come out of this. You have to release the how, because you don't know. Because things happen every day that you don't know. You didn't know that was going to happen. You didn't know you were going to meet that person or go to that place at the same time. Or you didn't know that an opportunity was going to fall into your lap. Or you didn't know that the house that you had been looking at was going to suddenly, be this much off. You didn't know, because miracles happen every day and you can't see them coming. So if you sit there trying to look around and say, well, how am I going to get out of this? Because nothing in your current life is indicating that you will, you're going to lose hope really, really quick. So your job is to say, I don't know how, but I'm sure it will, because life is temporary. Things are temporary. Circumstances are temporary. And I know we're going to come out of this. And I anticipate it will be quite lovely when we do. It's important to release the how. It's important to release the process. I was watching this sermon with Pastor Stephen Furtick, and he does Elevation Church, and he was saying how he was preaching to an empty room, which usually holds thousands of people, and he was feeling like he wasn't reaching anybody. And in front of him, what he was seeing was nobody. He was seeing nobody. He was seeing an empty church, an empty, and so he was just preaching from his heart. And what he found out afterwards was that sermon was the most watched sermon, because it was streamed online, because more people needed it at that time. And so what he was doing and what he was seeing wasn't what was happening. So you have to understand that the universe is working even when you can't see it. Even when you can't see anything happening, it's still happening. Part of what you can do to help boost that is if you can think of some intentions to set for yourself, to set for your life. Maybe you're not there. Maybe you're taking it one day at a time. Maybe you're just finding coping skills along the way. Maybe you're taking a couple deep breaths in the bathroom with the door locked and a glass of wine. I'm not judging you. But if you have gotten past that phase and you feel a little hopeful, set some intentions. I'm feeling better every single day. Life is getting more clear. I see a path. I see a way out. Whatever those intentions need to be to help fuel your heart and fuel your soul, know that as long as we're setting intentions, as long as we're allowing the universe to step in, that there can be major processes happening even if we don't see it. So know that even if everything looks the same and you're waking up to the same thing and it's not looking promising, that it doesn't mean that it's not getting resolved, and it doesn't mean that there's not better coming, because there is. And I believe that. And if you've looked at anything in your life, you can go back and look. Everything you thought that was going to last forever didn't. Everything. Nothing lasts forever. So know that whatever crushing you're going through, there's hope on the other side. Whatever crushing you're going through, you've made it through worse. You're going to come out of this okay. You're going to be better than before, because what the universe is doing is it's separating the parts of you that we no longer need, and birthing the parts of you that you're going to be for this better version of your life, for this next phase, for this new aging process. You're going to be the best damn wine anybody's ever tasted. But it's up to you to start today, to set some intentions, to take care of yourself, to treat it with one day at a time, and to know that something big is happening here. And just because you can't directly see it doesn't mean it's not. And in the moments where you're feeling, like, give yourself time to grieve. Give yourself 10 to 20 minutes a day to grieve, or to be upset, or to worry about the situation. Call it your worry time. And then don't worry, every time that pops in your head, you're going to say, no, tomorrow at 2 p.m. I'm allowed to worry. Tomorrow at 2 p.m. is my worry time. And then tomorrow at 2, you sit down and you can think about that stuff. But it does not serve you at all to be thinking about it all day long. So choose faith, choose yourself, set some boundaries, ask for the things you need from the people who are around you, connect with people if you're not around anybody. Even just stupid little games with friends. The house party app is a lot of fun. Just little things where you're connecting to people. Connection is a very underrated thing when you're in a crushing period. And for those of you who are alone, who aren't quarantined with other people, we will send you our children. I'm kidding. But but again, find ways to connect with people, whether it's through FaceTime, whether it's going through a walk in the neighborhood if you have nice weather, whatever it looks like. Just be intentional about connecting soul to soul. That will ease some of the stress. But find hope, find faith, choose wisely. Join my Facebook group, Rock Your Soul 2020. There's a lot of just good content in there, free courses and discounts on services with me. I am sending you all my light and love, and I'm wishing the absolute best for you during this time. Be easy on yourself, offer forgiveness to yourself, and we're all going to wait for this to improve together. Love you all. Bye.